Welcome to the Know Your Legacy podcast. I'm your host, Vipul Basanya, and today's guest is Aanchal Vash. Aanchal is the founder of Reach Out Together, which is a platform for raising awareness for mental health and mental illness. And she's become the voice for many of those who are suffering in silence. So thank you so much for being here today, Aanchal.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's interesting the work that you're doing, because I guess like so many people have been talking about mental illness and mental health recently, especially like celebrities and well-known like people as well. So, I mean, you've done a lot of amazing stuff from what I've seen on Instagram, but just to take it back a notch, I guess, let's start with why you started Reach Out Together in the first place, and you know the whole story behind what inspired you to go in that sort of direction.
For sure. I am Indian. I was born in India, but I was raised in Nigeria. And I came to Canada to study for university 9 years ago. And then when I graduated, I got a job just like everybody else, and, you know, just figuring out my career really. But I was raised with two brothers. And unfortunately, my older brother passed away from malaria in Nigeria when I was a teenager, 13 years old. And I had a twin brother as well. So after he passed, my twin and I, we came to Canada to study here together. And when we graduated, you know, we both got good jobs in our field. We were working very hard, progressing. But he unfortunately passed away to suicide 2 years ago. And because we were internationals, immigrants on a work permit at that time, my work permit was coming to expire that year, that same month, in fact, the month that he passed away. And I had to figure out not just the estate paperwork after he passed, because I don't have any family here in Canada, but at the same time, I had to figure out my living situation in the country. So the company I was working for at that time, thankfully, they were incredible people. They got immigration lawyers to help me out because I was an asset to the economy. Yeah. But unfortunately, that too wasn't working out. I kept getting rejected because I was doing a very technical job and they didn't have the right knock code. So eventually I just decided to wrap it up. I left the country, but I came back on a visitor's visa, kept applying for my permanent residency. And last year in July, I got my permanent residency. I came back here. But while I was still waiting for my paperwork to get legal, sorted out, I was still hosting a lot of events, just in my own community, trying to bring people together. And that's when I realized that this is really what I want to do. The way I feel after every event, when I just see people mingling, networking, and openly discussing their mental health challenges, I realized that I don't want to go back, even though it would have been easier at that time for stability, to go back and get a job, you know, live the 9 to 5, really in terms of stability. But that is not what I was passionate about, I realized. And I just decided to register my corporation legally. And this year, every single month, we've been hosting one event free of cost for Torontonians to just come out, learn about mental health illnesses, what it entails, and how really we can help ourselves and people around us that are suffering in silence. So I got mental health certified, first aid certified with the Mental Health Commission of Canada earlier this year. And right now I'm almost getting certified to be a human potential trainer by Jack Canfield, the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So I'm really excited for what the future holds for us. And I just want to continue to do this work and continue to impact as many people as I can.
It's amazing the type of work that actually comes out of pain. Like I see so many people facing pain in their life in some shape or form. And obviously you faced it with those that are closest to you. And most people probably, I would say like that I've seen anyway, crumble like in the face of pain. But those who have the courage to think about what it means for them and to try and find some purpose out of it, like that's where the beautiful work is like born. And I guess that's what you've created, because now it's going to have a domino effect onto those who are inspired by the events that you're holding, or something you might have said, or something that someone in your community might have said. So were you doing these sort of events before all of these things happened with your brothers, or like when in the timeline did it start?
The first event I have ever hosted was last year in June. June 11th was the first year, not in Calgary. I'm from Toronto. But I was invited to go to an event where one of my friends actually wanted to host a mental health awareness event, and she asked me to be a speaker. And I said, you know what? How many attendees do you have currently? And what's the capacity of this room? Because I'm a digital marketing and an advertising specialist. So I was like, let's collaborate and let us help you sell out. And we did that. I flew in, and it was just such an incredible event. The turnout was remarkable. We got live testimonials from this event, and that was the moment I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, because it's when you see the impact it has on other people that I guess that's what keeps you going. Like I get a similar sort of thing with my podcast. On some days I'm like, I don't really want to do it today. I'm not feeling in the mood, or it's we're going through some rough patches. And then I get a message from someone, and then I'm like, no, I have to, because now look, see how much it's impacted them. I have to keep reminding myself, this is not for me. Like I'm not doing it for me. It's coming through me, but it's not like my work. It's the work that's flowing through me for the effect of others that need to hear it. So, I mean, with the events that you're doing, it's crazy how much momentum it's picked up over the course of just 1 year. Like, how are you feeling about it now, from where it started to where it is now?
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's slow progress, but it's definitely progress. And I really like that. We fortunately were able to host an event in India, in Bangalore, through an ambassador who reached out to me and said, I love what you're doing and I want to bring it here. And we went through Zoom calls, training every day for like 3 weeks. And she hosted her event. We were able to cover the cost, so she wasn't paying out of her pocket. The whole event was so good. Just for me to sit here and watch, the response was remarkable. We were able to get 70 people to come out for an event that was only planned within 1 month. And from there, we hosted another event in Lagos, Nigeria. That too turned out to be pretty good. And I'm glad to see the slow progress, but it's progress. And I do resonate with you, what you just said earlier about, sometimes you have these podcasts and you just don't want to do it, but then you think of other people, that it's not about you, it's for other people. Losing someone to a disease, of course, it's very hard. But when someone in your family or your friend circle takes your own life, that's a different ballgame altogether. The way you heal is very different. The way you interact and you get support from your friends is very different. And as I mentioned earlier, I host one seminar free of cost in Toronto for people. And to be very honest, there are times where I don't want to do it. I'm like, why in the right mind would I set this up? But then a week before, I'm like, nope, I'm going to do this because it's not about me. It's for people like my twin brother, who are so amazing, who are so outgoing and so giving, yet they're suffering in silence and people don't see that. It's for them. And now, honestly, I may be one of them because we're twins, right? We have the same personality of being outgoing, social, always putting up a smile, but that's because that's who we are. But that's not reality. What you see is not what it is. So we are here trying to break that stigma for people that were suffering like my twin.
So how does it feel like to be you, like every single day? Like what goes through your mind? Because it's difficult for someone who hasn't physically experienced that. I can imagine the emotions and the thoughts are completely different. Like until you experience that for yourself, you're not going to know what life looks like. Like what does it look like through your lens?
Thank you for that question. I haven't had a lot of people ask me that. It's been very difficult. Every day is such a struggle to just wake up and get out of bed. But there's a story I'd like to share if I have some time. As I mentioned, it was just him and I in Canada alone. We didn't have any family here. And he was living in Mississauga. We owned the condo together, but I had a really good job in Toronto downtown, and I wanted to move here, and I did. So the day that he passed away, the police were trying to find me to let me know, because I'm the only family he had here. So they were able to get in touch with me really late at night, about 1:30 a.m. And he passed away at 5:30 in the evening. But for some reason, when the police, they knocked on my door and I opened it, I knew in the moment. But it was in that moment I had to decide how I was going to react and respond to this. And then they told me, and the same thing was occurring through my mind. It is what has happened, but right now I need to take care of the situation. If I break down right now, I am not going to be able to organize everything that I need to do moving forward. His estate, the paperwork with the Superior Court of Justice, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Transportation, my legal paperwork to stay in the country as well. And on top of that, I had to call my parents on FaceTime, because they live in Nigeria, to let them know, your second son is no more. I had to take a couple of minutes and decide how I was going to show up every single day. And ever since then, that is how I've been carrying my life. When I wake up in the morning, I have certain visualization things that I do to get my day going with intention, that this is what is going to come out of today. This is what I'm going to accomplish today. And I'm going to have fun while I do it. But it's about showing up with that intention, creating that moment right now that's going to define my present.
I can only imagine the type of character you've now become, like after going through all of that, because that is definitely not an easy piece of news to give. Like, among all the other things and responsibilities you had to pick up there and then. Like, I mean, I guess, you know, I want to ask you, like, what does it feel like now, 2 years later? Like, how are you feeling? Is it any different? Like, have you gone through a healing process? And if you have, like how have you got yourself to that place?
I feel like healing is an everyday job. The last 2 years have really been about damage control, to make sure that I'm able to live in this country, okay, normally, legally. I'm able to get all my paperwork sorted. I'm able to wrap up my twin brother's paperwork, just so I'm able to move forward with peace of mind. And this year I was able to get that completely out of the way. But now that that paperwork is over, I've had a lot of time to reflect on the last 2 years. And yes, it's hard. To be honest, every day sort of gets harder, because reality is really kicking in, that on the weekends, I can't just pick up the phone and go like, yo, bro, how are you doing today? Do you want to meet up? Can I come over? Do you want to come to Toronto? It's very hard. You know, the fact that we used to have an older brother, and he passed away to malaria. Tashar and I had each other really to talk about these things, because my parents, we were not, like, coming from a background like mine, we're Indians, we don't really communicate about certain things that really emotionally wise, we don't openly have open discussions. How are you feeling today? Like, even till now, I haven't had my parents come and ask me, Aanchal, how does every day look like for you? I know they understand because you're my parents, but just having that open discussion, because either they're worried that I'm going to get more sad, or they believe that I'm doing the best I can, right? But it's still about having that open discussion, that open communication, right? So yeah, it's been very hard recently. Every weekend is hard, but because I'm aware of it, now I have to take the right steps to overcome it, right? Being very honest, he jumped from the balcony of the condo that we bought together. And that itself was not easy to handle. But again, I did it with the best of capability that I could in that moment. There are days where I think about it. How easy would it be? How, like, if I just did the same thing? But then I take a pause and I realize that's really not what I want to do. I really want to live, and I want to make the most of life. I want to give back in every way I can. So nobody faces what we are facing. Yes, my brother was suffering so much in silence. He had nobody who understood what he was going through. I get that now. At that time, I didn't understand it. If you don't get it, you won't get it. And I didn't understand his suffering, but now I do. And I would never want that for anybody, for people that are going through it and people now that are dealing with the aftermath of someone taking their own life, right? So whenever I have these thoughts, because I'm so aware that they're coming, I actually leave my house or I leave work and I will go to a public space and just sit down, look at people, go talk to somebody, and I can sense my nerves coming down. That I realize these thoughts aren't me. This is not what I want. This is the sadness talking. This is the trauma speaking in my head that, oh, maybe if you just do this, it's all gonna go. But I really don't want to do that. I want to be here.
Yeah, I mean that it's a lot to go through. And like, what was the age when all of this happened? So like, let's go back 2 years. How old were both of you?
24.
24. Yeah. So that's still, I guess, any age, just not like, you can't process it. But I mean, especially 24, that's like having to pick all of that stuff up. Do you know what the reason was, or like, do you understand like the story behind, or put the pieces of the puzzle together as to why he may have done that?
I believe my brother was suffering for a very long time, for a very, very long time. And he did try to communicate that he was not okay, wasn't feeling okay. But then his behavior got very aggressive with time. And because we were young, we went through a lot of hardships growing up. We were a big family of 5, mom and dad and 3 siblings, 3 kids. But growing up at the age of 8, my mom got cancer. So we had to leave Nigeria and go to India to get it treated because medical in Nigeria was not very good at that time. And when that happened, unfortunately, we faced a lot of financial issues. But from there, I saw what my father made out of himself. And it was remarkable to just witness as a child in silence. Like, I can't believe you rebuilt everything from scratch. And I wanted to be more like him. And when my mom recovered, we went back. But then at the age of 13, when I was 13, my older brother got malaria. And there was nothing anyone could do. And there were other challenges that we both went through, including, sexual harassment. So did my twin brother. And he needed help at a young age, but we couldn't identify it because we were not aware about these things. It's nobody's fault. It's just the awareness part. We lacked it. Don't assume what they're about to say. Just listen.
It's such a hard thing to do though. Like, I mean, it's so basic listening, but it's the one thing that I think people appreciate the most when you're really present for them. Because we live in a society where we're always thinking about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we're on the go to just constantly be distracted. And that's something that is in our control. We can control that. And I find that the people that I give most attention to or listen to, you pick up small details in their language, in their body language, and you start to understand what they're really saying, but you can't pick that up if you're not deeply focused or communicating or aware of the situation. Because with most people, we're hearing what they're saying, but we're not listening. It's two different things. Because I could be talking to you right now, but then on my phone at the same time. I'm not really paying attention to what you're saying, but there's a difference between me listening to your response and then, responding to that, rather than, I think there was a phrase that someone said that was really good, was something along the lines of, you're not listening to hear, you're listening to respond. and it's like you're not actually wanting to take in the information. You're just wanting them to finish so you can say something, you know. And I don't know if you feel that way, and you know, if you've had an experience like that.
Yeah, of course. Don't get me wrong. I've been there myself in the past where I was listening, but I really wanted to say my own thing at the same time. But it's okay, because once you get aware of these things, you realize certain traits in yourself, and then it's a matter of correcting them. You know, we make mistakes, and that's totally okay. But it's, as long as we can learn and grow and move forward, we're gonna be gold.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the thing. It's just about being conscious of it. And I think that's what you're able to do with everything that you just said about the thoughts that you're having. It's like you take yourself out of the situation, and it's almost as if you've taken the power back before that force has taken over you. If I'm describing it correctly, you know, like you've taken out the plug almost.
Absolutely. If there's a book I can recommend someone who's looking for personal development and growth, it would be The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. In that book, one of the main principles, the biggest thing he teaches is event plus response equals outcome. And what that means, that's a book I read a month before my twin brother passed away. That's the moment when the police came onto my door, I'm like, the event is my twin brother's passed away. How I respond to it is really going to determine my outcome right now. And I've been playing that in my mind over and over again. Event plus response is going to determine my present moment. So choose to respond properly. And also, when you take 100% responsibility for your life, whether it's true or not, we just gain more power.
Yeah. 100%. I've felt that as well. Every time, so now I've slowly tried to train myself to think every time a situation goes in the opposite way of what I hoped it to be, whether it's someone else's fault or, you know, someone else could have done something, but I always think my first thought is, what could I have done about it? It's always my fault. Like I heard someone say this and it was just so true. Like it just resonated with me. He said, everything's my fault. And if you think that way, then you're never relying on anyone else. It's like everything's my fault, which means now you're in a solution oriented mindset of thinking, what could I have done to avoid that situation or to make it better? And then you're naturally taking control of your life because you're always thinking about taking the action yourself and not hoping someone else does.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have to ask, I mean, like, I don't have a twin. I've got two younger brothers. But having a twin, like, do you guys find yourself clicking more than maybe you did with your older brother, or the others that you see some of your other friends and their siblings do? Like, what's the relationship like? Because obviously you guys are 24. That's still a long time to get to know someone, you know, before you depart.
Yeah, he was my best friend. We were fraternal twins. Thank God for that. We were not identical, so that helped. But we were best friends. We had the same social circle. Yeah, we had other people as well, but at the end of the day, when we were hanging out, when we were trying to have a good time, we were always together as friends. And sometimes we had this thing, a connection that I didn't value at that time. And that's the twin connection. There were times where we both would think certain things and say it at the same time. And we look at each other like, what? Did that just happen? And those are the moments when I think about it, I remember, and those are good memories, right? Not everyone has had this opportunity that I have had to experience, and I value it so much.
Yeah, it's rare for those who haven't experienced it to know what it feels like, because we can only like vicariously experience it. Like we'll never know unless we're in that situation, like you are, you know, that has a sibling, to feel that. But I see it a lot in the movies. That's why I wanted to ask you, like people talking at the same time. Like, does that really happen?
It has happened a few times.
No, but I mean, like, you know, moving on to like mental illness or mental health itself, because it's a word that's thrown around so much, and like I think I know what it is, but it's so broad as well. Like, and you train people on that, and you know you coach people through that as well. So what does mental health mean to you, and what is it that people should be aware of?
Thank you for that question. Mental health is what we all have. We all have physical health, we all have health. Mental health is health. Now, if I have to explain it, if this is a line, a linear line, and this is the center of the point, right? Anything above here is positive mental health. Anything below is negative mental health. So when we're going through life, there will always be times where there are downs in life, right? Things get thrown our way. And then sometimes we move down this and we go to the bad mental health where we start to feel not very good. We start to feel sad, anxious, a little depression. And there are times where things go well in our life, and then we move forward. We take in some techniques, some strategies to improve our mental health, and we move down this linear and we have positive mental health. So what's important to understand is mental health is just health. We all have it. But when it becomes a matter of concern is when life is throwing things at you and this muscle in your body is so full that you're not able to absorb it and you're just bouncing back everything that life is throwing at you. That is the time you need to take a step back and realize what is going on within me. If I'm getting irritated at everything that's happening, something is not right and I need to check. Need to take some time, disconnect, and evaluate what's going on so I can correct it and really be happy internally and feel at peace. And this happens to most of us, and it's okay.
Does it need to be a condition, so to speak, or is it just like we should be looking out for our day-to-day mental health? Like it's not, we shouldn't have to seek out health when there's like a disease or an illness. Like it's something that we should look out for every day.
If you think it's a matter of concern, yes. So for example, anxiety is like sadness. It's like happiness. It's an emotion. Depression is an emotion. But when it becomes a problem is when it becomes a disorder. Anxiety-related disorders are not common. Anxiety is common, but anxiety-related disorders are not. Depression-related disorders are not. Bipolar disorder is not common. These are serious illnesses. And if they continue on for more than 6 months and it's recurring, maybe it's time to take a step back. And maybe it's not just 100% in your control. Maybe we just need to reach out for some help. And the first step is to just contact a physician, a family doctor. No stress, no pressure. Just go to a family doctor, tell them how you're feeling, and take it from there.
What do you think stops people from seeking out that help?
It could be the stigma, the culture you come from. People believing that that I have to fix it, it's all on me. But I believe it's really the stigma that prevents people from getting the help that they need. I can say that with certainty because of my twin brother and what I have seen. Like, he needed help, but he was always so concerned about what people would say, what people would think.
Yeah, I see that in like, I saw something a long time ago, and it was like a TV show that my friend had shown me, and it was like this mob boss. I think it was called The Sopranos actually, and he secretly went to a psychologist. And obviously in Italian culture, like he's a masculine man, you don't do that, especially if you're the head of a gang. And he used to do it every week because it was like cathartic for him, like just to release his tension. He hated being there, but he loved it at the same time because he knew what it was doing for him, but he hated it. Like his ego hated it. And it's like, in this day and age, it's important for us to do that because we come across so many, like there's the news and like, you know, there's newspapers and the media throwing so much negative stuff at us. And then you have social media where now we're comparing ourselves. Like there's so many more reasons to get mentally sick just by you know, having defective thoughts almost, or not controlling your thought behavior. And I just think like now is the time to train ourselves to feel like we can reach out. Like it's not a bad thing to necessarily do that, but I just feel so many people are still stuck in that rut of like, no, I have to look cool. I have to act like, you know, I've got it all figured out. I don't know if that's something that you find is quite common with the people that you've met and see, or is it that more people are now more readily confident to reach out?
I don't think people are very open to just communicating and sharing how they feel unless you start the dialogue. I find from my experience, the more I have openly shared with people, people have come back and shared what they're going through. And it has just helped them, just being there, listening as non-judgmentally, giving them the time to speak and finish everything they want to say. But it can start with you starting that dialogue. Like, hey, I've not been feeling good, or hey, I actually have been feeling quite lonely. You say this, chances are someone else is going to come back and tell you, like, I've not been feeling well either, right? One other thing is, there's a very big difference in people believing mental health is real. That, believing that you have the full power to fix your life. It's not always the case. Example, my mom had cancer at the age of when I was 8 years old. And I've seen her struggle, I've seen her recover from it. But yeah, it was very stressful. And everyone around her was so compassionate. They were so supportive. But if you are to tell somebody tomorrow or today, I think I have depression, or I think I have bipolar disorder, how many people are going to be like, oh, I am so sorry to hear. What is it? Can I do for you? Can I come over often? Would you like to meet up often? How many times have you heard that? That is a big difference in physical health and mental health. And that is why we're trying to overcome that stigma through Reach Out Together, by educating, by awareness.
Yeah, so it's like making people aware of the fact that it exists in the first place, and that it's okay for it to be. Because I mean, like if you had something wrong with your body, like like if you had a spot in a place that you've never seen before, or you broke an arm, like you wouldn't hide it. Like, let me go to the doctor. It's the first thing you think about is, let me go and get it fixed. Why? Because it's so normal. But I think with mental health, people, it's more taboo almost. Like it's not something that's that people do. And so they feel out of place to reach out for help. And I guess that's the area that you're trying to tackle, is like, it's not as bad as you think. Like, you're just gonna make it worse for yourself if you don't. And so it's okay. And I think, as you said, like, and I found this to be the case as well, is that when you're vulnerable and you tell people a personal story about you and your struggle, then they feel like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one. And then they loosen up a little bit.
Absolutely. So how's your journey been, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, so we're making this about me now, my interview. No, it's been, I think, like, all my listeners and viewers know a lot about me so far through all of the conversations I've had through these interviews. But the reason I shared about being vulnerable is, like, it took me a long time as well to share my story and come to grips with actually talking about what I went through with health, because it was a big thing that led me to having some dark thoughts as well, and I just had to try and control that for myself. So for me, it was more about, like, I'm 26 now, so this is going back when I was 20, and I was studying at university basically, and in my third year of university, no, actually my second year, going into my final year, I randomly just got this full body rash. Like, it was a major skin disorder that happened from, like, top to bottom, and I couldn't walk up the stairs, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't shower. I had to drastically change my diet. I was on so many steroids. Like, I just went to, like, 3 different specialists. Like, it was crazy, and no one could really figure out what it was. And one person said, oh, like, I think, we did blood tests, I think you're allergic to wheat and barley and oats and stuff. And I was like, I've never been allergic to anything. How is that possible? And they were just giving me answers that I didn't think were, I just didn't feel right. Like, I'm a very intuitive person, and I just felt like this answer isn't sitting right with me. Anyway, year after year, I was just going through this, using lots of different creams and stuff. And then as I started doing my own research, I realized, actually, there's inflammation of the gut. That's what it is. that's where all illnesses begin. At least this is what I believe, and this is what like um, physicians and like medicine healers and stuff from hundreds and thousands of years ago say exactly the same thing. All illness starts from the gut. And so that just made me deep dive into health. What is health? And that included mental health. And it was like, what is it I need to do? And the more I researched, the more I realized, heal the gut, you know, make like figure out what's wrong with your gut. If you heal that, everything else gets healed. Because the fact that you've got a skin condition is only an expression of the inflammation that's on the inside. So you need to do inner work, not outer work. And so while these doctors were trying to suppress the root, the, what do you call it? Not the root cause, but the, what's the word? The symptom. While they were trying to suppress the symptom, they weren't getting to the root cause. And then I realized, actually, I need to get to the root cause. And there's a fire inside my body that needs to be cooled down. And that was, again, through diet and through I did a lot of affirmations. And it was, now when I look back, it was a whole journey of self-love and not rejecting myself, which is what I did a lot of, because I started off being super confident. Then this happened, and then it really went downhill, and I lost all, like, my self-image wasn't good. I didn't have confidence. Self-love was definitely not good, to the point where I just couldn't stare at myself in the mirror. I was like, who the fuck is that? Like, yeah, you know, I don't want to look in the mirror anymore. It's not me. And I just felt lost. And at the same time, two and two put together, I was going through a journey similar to yourself. Like, I don't want to work. Like, I don't want to be a lawyer. That's bullshit. Having Indian parents, that didn't go down well. So it was, all of that's brought me to today. And I guess I'm grateful for it all happening. And if I was to be born again in the same body, in the same life, going through the same chapter, I would let it happen all over again, because I've learned so much. And more so than physical strength, is built mental strength to get through what I needed to. And then I guess for the challenges to follow, which you can't get unless you go through some sort of pain. And I guess that you've been able to gain the same sort of strength mentally from what you've been through as well. That's my rant over.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's such a nice story. And look at where you are today. Look at the work you're doing. You're giving people a platform to just share what they're up to, what they're doing. And it's incredible. This is just the beginning.
No, thank you. I mean, it took a long time to actually be able to share that. So it wasn't easy, and I'm sure it was the same for you. It's not something that you can just get up and share the next day. Like, you need a lot of reflection and a lot of, I guess, quiet time first before you can go out and share with others. And when you get to that place, you know that you've done some work yourself to be able to now come to terms with it, which I feel like I have a lot more. And so a lot of lessons that I've gleaned from it. So that's why I wanted to ask you, is like, what are some of the most important things you've learned over the last few years? Because it seems like that's a lot of stuff that's gone on in a space of a few short years.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's one thing that I know, is self-care is definitely, obviously, very important. But the first question, or the first few questions I ask people is, how is your physical health? Like, in terms of, do you exercise? What do you do for exercising? To just release or express yourself. What is it that you do? And are you seeing someone, whether it's a therapist or a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or just a physician? Are you seeing somebody? Because the first step is really, like, therapy is amazing. I don't know why people don't go for it. It's a complete stranger. You get to talk about anything you want to talk about. And you just get to release. Nobody needs to know. It's a win-win. And you get to feel great when you leave, right? Now, if therapy too, you find at a point, isn't giving you the solutions that you need, then perhaps reevaluate, go to a physician, and they will recommend you to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, right? But therapy is great. Having a support system in place for when you do get those panic attacks or those episodes is so important. And that support system that is in place needs to be very non-judgmental. Someone that doesn't tell you anything, but rather just listens and lets you speak in that moment. It's very important to have that. Now, when you don't find someone who's able to provide that for you, there are millions of people in the world. Move on. Don't take it personally that it's you. No, buddy, it's not you. Be aware. Realize that there are too many people out there. If it's not this person who understands how to support you, next. If it's not the next person, move on. Keep looking, right? And if you're not able to find that, go to therapy. Go find a therapist.
Yeah, do you know, like there's so many things I want to say just coming from that. And it's one of them is, as I've been on my journey, which I've shared on my page, is like I've come up with a lot of thoughts, and that's where half of the quotes come from. It's just me realizing certain things along the way, and I'm just like, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And one of them is that we're born into this world with two families, and this is how I felt. Is one is the family you're born into, and the one that you have to go out and find. The one you're born into is the one that you're born into. Like you don't have a choice. Doesn't necessarily have to be your support system. That's where the mistake is. Most people think, oh, this is my family, they should support me. This is like, I should be getting on with them. Why is my brother saying this to me? Or why are my parents not supporting me? That may not be their role. Everyone plays a different role. Like your parents are vessels to bring you into this world. That's their job, to bring you into this world. You were the seed that was inside them, and now they've planted you in this world to do your job, to live out your purpose, whatever that may be. It's not for them to tell you what your purpose is. That's the whole point of life, at least from my perspective, to figure it out on your own. And that's when you go out, you show gratitude to them, but you go out and then go and find the family that's going to help you find your purpose and to support you along the way, because there's other people who are going to have a similar sort of thing. And I guess that's probably one of the reasons that we've been brought together in some shape or form, is we're on a similar journey of sharing a message with the world that we're passionate about. And it's not the typical message. And the second thing is, as you're talking, I just realized that this whole thing, like what the story I just shared, and like what you've been through and everything you're talking about, it's all one thing. Like it's holistic health. Like you can't look at things separately. As I said, like people are looking at like the skin as a separate organ. It's not a separate organ to the mind, because the mind conjures up thoughts, and the thoughts you have affect your body, and then what's going on the inside is affecting the outside. So it's all like one cyclical thing. And so and it feeds into like the healthcare system. And this is the area that I'm quite passionate about, because of what I've been through. Is like, why we're not shown half the medicine that's supposed to help us in this day and age, especially with anxiety and depression, etc., etc. We're given the standard, like, I don't know what they call it in the States, but I think it's like Xanax or whatever it might be. I don't know what you call them, but the pills that people get addicted to, and they end up doing therapy and getting prescription, and that costs a lot more than having natural plant medicine, which they can just get for a lot cheaper, and they don't have to take it lifelong, and there's no side effects. But we're not told about that. And so I try and shed light on what it is that's available to people by going out and trying to find out the information myself. Because as I'm finding one nugget of information, I dig deeper, and the rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'm finding more and more people who have been healed through alternative medicine. So I don't know if that feeds into any of your research or something that interests you in terms of how to deal with mental health as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. What I also feel is, back in the day, there were people that didn't believe that cancer was real. They thought that when people had lumps or they had things, they would put them away in different rooms, seclude them. And they'd call them untouchables. They would just not be around them. They would call them witches and God knows what, especially in India, rural areas of India. But over time, there were advocates like you, like me, like a lot of other Reach Out Together ambassadors who stood forth and who would share their journey, who would share journeys of the people that they knew, and would just educate people, make them aware. So eventually, with time, they were able to get more funding in place. They put it into research and development, and they realized, guess what? Cancer is real. It's a real disease. It's an illness. And that is really what we're trying to do here with mental health, with physical health, right? We're trying to really get as many advocates to just get out and share what you're going through as openly as you can. And that's how we can really, all of us, get more funding put into research and development and figure out other means to get better. But yes, we are lacking a lot of funding in this regard.
Yeah, I think, as you said, it takes a lot of people to come together to actually make their voices heard, so that there is a lot of attention brought to that space. So, I mean, where do you see like Reach Out Together going now? Because I know you've been doing it for a year and it seems to be picking up quite a lot. And I think, you know, from what you're explaining, I think eventually you will have ambassadors like in every country, because it's such a big topic. And like, it's exciting to think of where it might go, but I'm just curious to think about, you know, what your vision is for it, if you've had a vision for it. Yeah.
So what we're doing right now, I think, is just pretty much creating awareness towards the brand by getting out more and more Reach Out Together ambassadors. But what the ultimate goal is for it to be a platform for mental health change makers. So imagine there's a LinkedIn, but strictly for mental health change makers, people who are passionate about this, where they can go online on this platform, put down all the projects they've worked on in their community to make a difference. A model like this would also encourage more and more people to want to make a difference, especially the younger generation. And if we're able to add a monetary reward to this, why would someone not want to spread that awareness, get educated? A model like this could even help small income families. Now, this is a logo of Reach Out Together right at the back of me, and I want to explain it. This circle right here with the hands. So if you can put your palms together, this is a universal hand sign to teach togetherness for people that have a hearing disability. So you put your hands together and you go in a circle. That's how they know you're talking, do it together.
Oh, right. Okay.
Color orange, because orange is used as a healing color. In color healing therapy, it brings out feelings of warmth and happiness.
Yep.
Added a circle around it to demonstrate the world, because we really want to reach out together to heal the world.
That's amazing. I never thought that like that's what it meant. Honestly, I saw the two hands together. I just thought like love, or, you know, something along those lines. I didn't think it was that deep. So that's yeah, beautiful looking at that now.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. We have milestones, baby steps, but this is just the beginning. Even for me, this is not the only organization that I want to build and create something. This is the legacy I want to leave behind for my twin brother, really. But there is a lot more that I want to do, and I'm so excited. I actually have 100 goals that I want to accomplish. I'm still in the process of jotting all of them down. I have about 79 in place. But I'm going to have 100 goals written out that I want to accomplish before I leave.
I love it. Are you able to shed some light on some of them?
I don't have them right in front of me, but yes, I would love to. So the first thing is getting 50 Reach Out Together ambassadors by the year 2023, October 11 by noon. Very precise. Then the next step for me is publishing my own book. So I've thought about 4 books that I want to publish, but I want to start with a mental health related book for caretakers, not people that are suffering with an illness, but people who are around to support someone that's suffering. And after that, there'll be several books that I would love to launch about my life, about different things, different issues, the success principles, how to help your community, things like that. Then I would love to launch a movie someday. A documentary, starting with a documentary, moving on to having my own movie on my own story. There is a lot that I think I can offer just through what I've been through. Things that I don't really even talk about, but it's going to be in this book. Hopefully a movie someday. And I'd love to learn golf. They're just goals that cover all 7 areas of life, including career, finance, hobbies, and there's like 7 of them in total. Legacy being one of them as well.
That's amazing. I mean, that's a lot of goals to have, and I mean, somewhat like most people don't even have one. Like they don't even know where their life is going, and I think that that causes the issue of people, you know, being able to wake up and be happy every day. I guess that contributes to mental health as well. From what I see, it's like, yeah, if you can't keep your mental state together, then you're not going to be able to do the day-to-day activities or even be motivated to live out the rest of your life, and then that can cause the downward spiral. Like half of it is probably understanding what your why is and the purpose that you're of what you're doing. And if you've got a good purpose or a big purpose that's heartfelt to you, I guess it can drive you through most things. And it certainly did for me, because I just felt like, you know, I want to be, because they talk about in the like ancient traditions, they talk about ancestors that come before us and them looking, you know, down on you, asking themselves and talking between them, is this going to be the one? Is he or she going to be the one that shares the message that we all kept inside us, or that this society is not being told yet? Are they going to have the courage to do it? And that, it gives me tingles every time I say it, and the first time I heard it as well, because it's like that's what drove MLK and Gandhi and Mother Teresa and all of these people that I always recite. It's just like they had the courage to be the one. And after that, the world was a completely different place. And so before I get into the last few questions, I just want to say thank you for doing the work that you do. It takes a lot of courage, like emotional courage, to do and step up in the space that you have. And so I wish you nothing but success moving forward.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And you too. We're onto something.
Yeah, no, most definitely, most definitely. So, I mean, just to wrap up the final few questions, the first being, if there's anything different that you would tell the 18-year-old Aanchal, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to keep going. And believe in yourself, believe in your capability. The one thing that I've realized right now is, what is life purpose? That question that pops up, the big question, what is my life purpose? I would tell her that I will tell you what your life purpose is. Your life purpose is to serve. Whether you want to serve an employee, whether you want to serve, you know, an employer because you believe in their vision, whether you want to be your own person because you believe in your own strength and you know you can make that difference. Whatever it is, your life purpose, Aanchal, is to serve. But the next question is, what is it that you want to serve? What is your passion? So the question you should ask yourself is not, what is my life purpose? Because your life purpose is to serve. But really, what are you passionate about, Aanchal? And serve that passion. Because then you won't be working every single day. Work won't feel like work. You would wake up feeling amazing the way I do. Yes, I'm going through ups and downs because it's my healing process. I've just lost my twin brother 2 years ago. I'm still healing. But what keeps me going is my passion. That's my life purpose, because I'm finally in line with it.
I've never heard anyone put it in that particular way, and that you put it really, really well. So that was just inspiring hearing it put together like that so nicely. Do you think, like, I was going to ask you, I think you answered anyway, but like, do you think everyone's life purpose is to serve in some shape or form?
Absolutely. You could serve anything. You could serve a pet. You could serve an employer. You could serve a co-worker. You could serve yourself by being an entrepreneur. You're still being of service to something. We're born on this earth to serve something. And I also genuinely believe that we're all here with our own set of talents. Example, you may be a great podcaster, right? I may be good at public speaking. I don't have to become good at what you do, and you don't have to become good at what I do. But we can come together and work together because we're bringing our own set of skills, right? Amanda may be great at designing a website, but I'm still great at public speaking or selling. So we can come together and work together, right? You're serving your purpose, I'm serving mine. But it's when we start to compare ourselves to other people, that's when we start to feel bad, right? On social media, we're always comparing ourselves. Oh, look at this person's life, look at this person. No, they're doing what they need to do right now. They're serving their purpose. You're doing what you need to do. right? So when you feel like you're getting in that space, just take a step back.
Yeah, that I realized that from doing a lot of self-reflection is that imagine what a world would look like if everyone was serving their own purpose. Like everything would just click, just like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. You put it all together, and it would, this whole big clear picture would come together. But because we're all trying to fit the wrong piece into the the wrong piece into a different piece altogether, it's just not working. Like we're forcing it to happen, and it's just not going to happen. And so I think that's why it's important for us to just take a step back and realize, actually, what is it I'm passionate about? What is it I want to give? What is it I want to serve? Because no one else can do it better than you can in that space. That's what I believe. Like everyone's unique, brought here for a unique reason, and the whole fun in life is figuring out what that reason is and then living it out. So the second question is, if there was one statement that you could write and it would go into a time capsule for generations from now to read, what is that one statement you'd want them to read?
I am the possibility of integrity, respect, and transformation.
Wow. It seems like you've been thinking about that for a while.
It's an affirmation I use every single day. And if I have some time, I'd love to explain it.
Yeah, go for it.
So I am the possibility of integrity, respect, and transformation. Possibility being I can create anything that I want. It's about choosing whether I want to do it or not, but I can create anything. Anything is possible. So I am the possibility of integrity, being honest, doing things the right way. And really, if you say you're going to do it or don't do it at all, right? So integrity. Respect is respect yourself and then respect other people. Self-love is so important. If you can't, like we go around telling people, I love you, but how many times do we tell ourselves, hey, Aanchal, I love you. I love what you did today. It was such a hard day, yet you showed up and you made the best you could. Loving yourself is the first step, right? Respecting yourself and everything you've been through is so important. So have self-respect for yourself and respect other people. And the last is transformation. Be open to change. Every day, things will go wrong. Things may not go wrong, but be open to anything that comes your way and to make the most of it and transform it to what you want it to be.
I think affirmations play such a powerful role in just like brainwashing ourselves into becoming the people that we want to be. And it's really helped me as well. And one of the things actually I used to tell myself, like when I needed it most in the darkest of times, was, I think I heard this from Les Brown, and I just like kept saying it because it just helps so much, was no matter how hard it gets or no matter how hard it's going to be, I'm going to make it. Like it just kept saying that over and over again. And it just makes your mind conditioned to adapt to any situation that you might find yourself in. And for saying what you've just said, that definitely will shape your character. If you say it enough times, you start acting in a certain way based on, opening yourselves up to possibility, making decisions that are going to keep your level of integrity and respect intact as well. So, it's not surprising that you've come up with something like that, doing what you do. So, I mean, the last thing is, I guess we touched on this a little bit, but this is now the time to dive into it, is what's the legacy you hope to leave behind?
Thank you. The legacy that I would hope to leave behind is a charity called Reach Out Together. Right now, we are a non-for-profit or a corporation, a federal corporation, but I would love this to be a global charity, a well-recognized charity. I think it's important that we spread more awareness with regards to mental health. And as much as this is just the beginning, it's not the end. Once I accomplish this, I'm going to move on and on and on. But this is the first legacy that I would love to leave behind. Definitely.
I love it. No, well, you're definitely on your way to doing all of that with everything that you're doing. And, you've got my full support every step of the way. So thank you so much for being here to share.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.